The iconic American author Mark Twain is attributed as saying, "The lack of money is the root of all evil." Now, this is a twist on a biblical proverb. The love of money is the root of all evil. But when you change the word love to lack, you shift the focus from the desire for money to the visceral experience of the absence of money. Not having money and perhaps just feeling like maybe you don't have enough money can lead to all sorts of problems, even driving people to commit immoral acts. Financial insecurity and poverty can push people into desperate situations, leading them to make choices they might not otherwise make. Money really holds the power to shape our human behavior, our decisions, and ultimately the societal structures that we create and live in. And in this perspective, it's not the pursuit of money that creates evil, but the scarcity and lack of it, the lack of economic substance and feeling like you can get by. And that makes people feel unsafe, distrustful, and more prone to control and to coercion, which I think we see more and more of. And when I was a journalist, I was certainly covering more and more in my job. I don't believe we shall ever have a good money again before we take the thing out of the hands of government. That is, we can't take it violently out of the hands of government. All we can do is by some sly, roundabout way introduce something they can't stop. These are words from economist and Nobel laureate Friedrich Hayek more than 40 years ago, as if he was predicting Bitcoin. It suggests that for money to be stable and useful, it should be free from government control. But today, governments and central banks around the world hold the unbridled power to create and manage money. They can print it out of thin air with no constraints. They add billions and now trillions to balance sheets at the stroke of a key without any single vote. And the United States remains the global reserve currency for now, but it is backed by nothing of scarcity, nothing that can keep the government in check. And so the people in power can manipulate our money's value, they can create inflation by expanding the supply of money, and they steal from us while we sleep. Someone very smart said not too long ago, "Fiat is a fraud." I started my professional career in 1981. The peso was 20 to 1 to the dollar. Today, we are at 20,000 to 1. This is the theft of inflation, and thank you, Ricardo, for this very direct and truthful observation. When governments manipulate and debase currencies, they strip people of their economic dignity. And economic dignity is so core to our self-worth and our ability to have and maintain a sense of hope. Inflation leads to feelings of insecurity, of inequality, and a loss of control over not only our financial futures, but also our lives. And it steals our time and makes us prone to distrust one another. And we see that trust breaking down everywhere. Trust in institutions, trust in maybe the people that are in your own community, because we have a system that is leaving hardworking, good people further and further behind. The root problem with conventional currency is all the trust that's required to make it work. The central bank must be trusted not to debase the currency, but the history of fiat currencies is full of breaches of that trust. Banks must be trusted to hold our money and transfer it electronically, but they lend it out in waves of credit bubbles with barely a fraction in reserve. Satoshi Nakamoto, the father or maybe mother of Bitcoin, made this profound observation in the white paper that released Bitcoin into the world. Satoshi gave us a gift aimed at solving our greatest problem, our reliance on central authorities, many of whom are not elected, to protect the value of our money. And history shows that people in power are corruptible. Currencies have been devalued in every nation, and history shows that that devaluation has also been used to fund countless very deadly wars. And we know that banks have engaged in very risky behavior with little or no reserves, only to be bailed out by us, the citizens and the taxpayers. These breaches of trust have real-world consequences for everyday people, affecting their savings, their investments, their financial security. Bitcoin seems to be a very promising idea. That's what cypherpunk Hal Finney said back in 2008, and he was the first person to receive a Bitcoin transaction from Satoshi Nakamoto. Hal saw very early on what so many of us see now, that Bitcoin is a remarkable technological breakthrough, an achievement of cryptography, allowing for the transfer of value in a digital, decentralized, trustless way that can be verified by anyone in the world. It is borderless, it is permissionless, and it is incorruptible. But equally important, Bitcoin as a new form of money can't be controlled. And it offers a more stable and a more equitable financial framework for us to rebuild on. We have to have a strong foundation. It is a movement for financial freedom, for economic empowerment, and for the separation of money and state. For the first time, we have a form of money immune to manipulation and monopolization, and it levels the playing field for everyone in the economy. I am a capitalist. And I have never seen a more capitalistic system than Bitcoin, which rewards putting in the work. It is a meritocracy. To create money in the fiat world, the people in power, those at the top, they can just push a button and make it at no cost to them, but at a great cost to everybody else, to the savers. To create Bitcoin, you have to expend energy. You have to make sacrifices. And you have to follow the rules. There is no one with a special advantage or privilege. It is a system of rules without rulers. And it is a free market, encouraging the accumulation of capital. Capitalism has been the most successful system for making people better off materially in the history of the world. Warren Buffett. Now, he may not understand Bitcoin yet, but he understands capitalism and wealth creation, and he has benefited from the fiat system. We don't have real capitalism today. We have crony capitalism. We have the Cantillon effect, where those closest to the money and to the printer and to the power benefit. This is not the spirit of capitalism. Capitalism fuels prosperity by enabling free trade and innovation and competition, where risks can be justly rewarded or allowed to fail. Capitalism allows people to create value by solving problems and ultimately serving others. You only succeed in capitalism if you give people something they want, something to fill their needs, something to make them happy, something to make their lives better. Capitalism, in its imperfect form, helped give birth to the innovation that was the internet. And think of how that has transformed all of our lives. We have an internet computer in our hands at all times. And so quickly, it took off and transformed the way we do business and the way we communicate with each other. I remember being a young girl watching the news anchors that I looked up to on national American television networks talking about the early internet in the 90s. They were confused about the @ sign, they didn't know what .com was, and they were very dismissive about how it would fundamentally change everything that we do. The internet democratized information, much in the same way that the printing press democratized information and knowledge in the Middle Ages, which ultimately led to the separation of church and state. Now, the internet gave rise to powerful big tech monopolies, but it also offered a platform to independent voices and creators around the world, including myself, to share their thoughts, to share their ideas, their lives. And Bitcoin will do the same through the creation and transfer and preservation of value in the digital world. It will do it everywhere, instantaneously. It will democratize finance by increasing inclusion, banking the unbanked, and offering property rights to 8 billion people. Whereas the internet allowed for the free flow of information, Bitcoin will allow for the free flow of value. Camarón que se duerme, se lo lleva la corriente. I hope I said that correctly. The shrimp that falls asleep is carried away by the current. I heard this as a proverb that's said in some parts of Mexico about the importance of staying alert and taking action, because complacency can lead to undesirable outcomes. And complacency about Bitcoin can mean losing your hard-earned savings and allowing your money and your future to be controlled by someone else. You don't want to fall asleep on the revolutionary implications of Bitcoin, in the same way that you didn't want to fall asleep on the transition to the internet age. It embodies the imperative of educating yourself about Bitcoin, about the promise and the power of this technology. Doing nothing is not an option when your savings are being inflated away. There is so much darkness in this world today. There is so much division and negativity, and it is our choice if we want to focus on the negatives, the things that are wrong, the things that are broken. But in doing that, we breathe life into the darkness. And the only thing that's more powerful than that darkness and than fear is hope. Hope is being able to see there is light despite all the darkness. So we can choose to focus on the light. The people motivated to change the world through fixing our money, leveling the playing field, helping uplift workers around the world, and building tools for economic empowerment in every nation. Bitcoin is hope. Thank you.